So, all right. So, what we've been talking about the past few weeks here is, our onboarding process, getting someone started, like all of us did, and going from completely brand new in business to building a list, getting licensed, all of the necessary steps. But we've been focusing a lot more on the contacting side. So, what kind of a script do we use? How do we verbalize and communicate what we're doing to folks that we can get in front of them and have a fruitful meeting with a trainer for those that are new, and how do we go about doing all of that? And so last week, I think we had talked a lot about kind of scripting, but then also point of contact. So, like in Calvin's case, having someone like myself involved to give feedback, to talk, what are you doing well, but also where can we improve, so that we can make sure that your growth is as quick as possible here. So what I wanted to do here today is I had posted on our Facebook page for those of you that had seen. So Ryan Schwann's had a couple successful contacts here last week. So I'll have him give a little bit of context, as to who it was that we were reaching out to in general. But the what he did really well was he talked to these people outside of our physical contact. So before he got me involved, what he did really well was it came up very organically at a gathering of folks, and he had briefly explained what it is that he's doing and what we're getting involved in, and but had teed up, hey, I want to give you a call with my business partner involved, and then I want to set up a time for us to get together. So, um, you know, all of those things, because it was done properly. What he didn't say is, oh man, I'm selling life insurance, like, come and meet with me. Like that would have gone, really bad, obviously. So, Ryan, if you could, kind of tell us a little bit of detail. This might have kind of come into your lap, but how did you go about, hearing what went on, identifying, hey, this is probably something that I should, talk to these people, and then you let them know, hey, I'm going to give you a call, and then we called them when you did. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so these people have been on my list for quite some time, but due to a lot of unfortunate circumstances, it was never a good time. A lot of family death. So I didn't want to just be like, oh hey, I know somebody just died here. Do you want to talk about this? So I was all just like, never a good time. And then at a gathering around Thanksgiving time, everyone just I don't know how this was happening, just because I don't necessarily um think I had paid attention to this in the past, but people were talking about just like eventually being retired and how much they have going on and things like that. So, and it had been mentioned that it was what I do. I didn't really force a whole lot of it at that time, but I was just trying to kind of gather some information about people and see who would be open to it possibly and compare them to my list that I had. There's going to be a few that I probably still won't call just because I do not believe that they're the type of people who will take it in a positive light. But I eventually did end up making some calls um, to two of them that re- in light of this or in pure happenstance, they were actually both coming into um, a large bit of money from an inheritance from a deceased family member, and one of which has a lot of money, the other doesn't have a whole lot. So it was funny to see the dichotomy between both of them and how they reacted to the call because both of them were like, I need help with this. I have no idea what's going on. And they were very willing to just get the ball rolling right away. I was like, oh, that's not what this call's for here. We're just trying to get an idea of what's going on, what your wants are, and then we can go for it from further there. But for the new guys, Calvin and anybody else who's going to be watching this, um, as everyone on this call has all told me, you're going to get a lot of no's, but eventually you're going to get some yeses. You just got to keep calling. And sometimes it's all about timing. Um, and when the timing is good. And sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Mhm. So let's go back to, it sounds like it was at Thanksgiving at a gathering. So, when the topic came up, were you kind of licking your chops, or did you feel like, holy crap, like Alec told me what to say, like, let me like pull out my script real quick from your pocket, or did you feel like it was more organic conversation?
it was definitely more organic conversation, just kind of talking a little bit with things. Nobody really seemed to be questioning at that point. It was more or less kind of a, oh, look how much I have kind of conversation. And so I was just kind of listening and hearing all of these things and be like, okay, you're talking a lot, but do you know what to do with it?
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, okay, these are people that I'm going to need to talk to and try and follow up from there. Just because the state that everybody was into, not exactly willing to, or it wasn't the best environment to have those kinds of conversations. There was a lot of few beverages happening
Yeah.
at that
Fair
kind of thing.
enough.
So I
It's a
definitely
gathering. So
Hey
took it a
Ryan,
little
just
more
a,
shallow.
yeah, I just have a question if you can elaborate just a little bit. You had just mentioned that there was like a couple people that you still probably won't call, and I'm just wondering why that is.
They are very, one, proud people, a little bit ignorant, and I'm already not their favorite person just because they're very prejudging. Um, and they've made comments to me in the past about my family and like just at my wedding in general. They're like, "Oh, so this is what it's like to have money," and just like blah blah blah, and just very judgmental. And I don't believe that they would. And this is from not just myself too, but taking outside counsel as well, saying like they're probably not going to be. They're probably going to be. They need it now, and they're probably just going to take the money and run.
yeah. So,
That's
Joe, to your question, I had the same question for Ryan on Friday, and because I'm like, hey, if there's an inheritance, if there's money getting moved, like let's be part of this. But, when he just described that, I kind of ran through, okay, who do I know? And I feel like there's people
Hmm.
that I know that I'm like, I want to help people, but if I'm going to call you and you take offense to the fact that I'm like offering my time, one, and two, if I know you're going to, take 50 grand and like buy lottery tickets with it or something and think like that's the only way to get wealthy and you're not going to hear my advice, is that worth my time? And I think there's a certain level of, hey, we should be having an open-minded mission and we should be reaching out to as many folks as possible. But also, part of this process is having the discernment to be like, okay, I can just tell from the get-go, I don't want to spend 30 minutes with this person anyways, nor do they want to spend it with me. So it might just not make sense to even reach out to that to that
Yeah, I
person.
mean, there's definitely those kinds of people. We probably all came across them in life in general. But and I'm not saying it's right, wrong, either way, but a a subtle text that takes you 3 seconds to write, or just a little, if you want some insight on something, I'd be happy to help you out. Leave it at that.
Yeah,
You don't have to, you
I
don't
think
have
that's
to,
fair.
you don't have to,
that is
you know, you don't have to put in an hour to it right away. I don't know the people, and maybe you're right about it, but I'm just saying, don't close the door on that. Because I think even if it doesn't come to fruition with anything, there's a growth aspect for you to have in that circumstance.
yeah.
Man, that is big time advice right there from Joe.
Mm.
I love every word you just said. Because I was just about to ask Joe as a follow up, like I often do this, like let's game out like a worst case scenario. What's the worst that could come out of Ryan investing? Let's round up and say 5 minutes in contacting this person. What's the worst thing that could come out of that?
Yeah, them saying no, I don't need your help. Thanks anyways.
Them doing exactly what he thinks they're probably going to do anyways.
Right.
But what is Ryan guaranteed to get out of that?
An answer,
And
closure,
closure.
closure. Yeah.
How about, like you guys, I have a lot of satisfaction on some. There are things that I've done that have led to like an enormous amount of compensation relative to the time I've put into them. And there are things that have resulted in extraordinarily little or no compensation relative to the times I put in them. Like I said, that's part of business. But there are some of those category of things I'm like, I'm still proud of myself for doing that. I'm still proud of myself for showing up there, for giving that person a chance. Because if I ever get to a point, this is me speaking, if I ever get to a point where I'm too good to go to a meeting, go help a client, help somebody set up an account, service and somebody, then I've really gotten away from why I got started here in the first place. And that was like big for me getting started is I got started here with a bad taste in my mouth of just I hated the elitism aspect of our industry. I never wanted to be an advisor that only worked with a certain kind of clientele. Now, that doesn't maybe exactly apply to this situation, but maybe as an overlay, like part of the fuel that keeps me going all these years later is a sense of like self-respect and pride of what I've done. And everything hasn't worked out for me, believe it or not. But I can put my head on the pillow and say, at least I gave that person a chance. And that feels a lot better for me personally than like the what if and should I have talked to that person? Should I have extended that invitation? So for what it's worth, Ryan, you're the entrepreneur. You get to make that decision, and none of us are in your shoes, and none of us understand. We listen, trust me. I bet we all have some sort of weird family dynamic going on, somewhere. But for what it's worth, I just think what you said, Joe, was extraordinary.
I would
This
say,
person probably isn't. Go ahead, man.
no, I mean, yeah, doubling down on what everyone else is saying, but even them telling you no, Ryan, actually helps them as much as it helps you. Just airing it out there, declaring it's, a shot you took and they declined it. So what? That's on them. You're going to move on. You're going to find, the next client. And for, I think prospects, them actually voicing the no, it just removes all that gray area now. Because right now you're in some gray area.
True.
And
Yeah.
I would add too, like, how old are you, Ryan?
I'm 33.
Not that it really matters, but let's say that they say, sure, we'll hear your spiel. Then you spend 20, 25 minutes with them. Again, what's 20, 25 minutes in the next 30 years of you doing this, 40 years of you doing this? It's nothing, right? Even if they say, yeah, we knew what you were going to say and we don't want to hear it anyways. Oh, well, you know? So yeah, I just wouldn't close the door on that yet. I think there's a lesson to be learned either way.
I'm coming in late to this, but from what I've gathered, I've had this happen in my life, not in this industry yet, but where I've offered a service or help to people before and they've said no and later ended up coming back to me like, hey, I know I said no before, but then, the more I thought about it, I realized actually I did need help and, I just wasn't ready to accept it at the time. So.
Boom. Love it.
No means not right now, right?
That is why we are a team and not doing this on our own. So,
Hey Ryan, just one last thing. I've had a guy that Alec and Don both know because we work out with him on a regular basis, but he's been on my mind for months. In the workout field, he's got his shit together, right? He's running laps around people. Just comes off the surface level type of man. He's out here busting his hump, 300 plus days a year. And we do crazy stuff, man. We're out there when it's, -10. It takes a certain kind of stupid to do those things or whatever, however you want to look at it. But
Yeah, been there.
but I hem-hoed around. And this morning I just sent him a message and said, hey, can I get your and Megan's ear for 15, 20 minutes one of these days to just tell you a little bit more about what we do? You seem like you probably have all your ducks in a row, which is great if so. But if not, you know where to go if a want need ever arises, and maybe a few people that could use our help along the way. And his response was, I am more than willing to do that with you. Despite you thinking I have all my stuff in a row, let's plan for that after the holiday. Sweet.
It's pretty awesome. How long has this guy been in the back of your mind, Joe? You've been kind of waffling on whether to contact him or not.
I would say legit, probably 3 to 4 months.
You guys, I'm just telling you right now, I'm just overwhelmed by this feeling that there is just massive growth happening on our team right now. I mean, I'm listening to the comments you guys are making, the development everybody's going through. I mean, Alec, you didn't give me an opportunity to chime in, but like how you handled your client, from a totally different altitude than I think you would have done a year ago. I mean, that was the difference maker. That moved the needle, right? And that takes confidence and experience. And what we're all fighting for is how do we get there quicker? Because I don't have a doubt in my mind that all you guys are going to get to, an elite version of yourselves. But are we going to take 3 years to do it, or are we going to take 10 years to do it? That's the debate inside of our own brains. And I love all of this contribution. I love what you guys are adding to this.
So Tyson, I guess, at this point, this was kind of a lot of what we had wanted to talk about today. So, is there anything that we can talk more about on, what Ryan's contacts were made, or is there anything else that you would want us to kind of focus on here for another 10, 15 minutes?
I don't have anything agenda wise. One thing I told Alec this morning, we were talking about this call a bit, was I said, here's what I think we're doing really well right now that I want to be very intentional about continuing is I think each of the last few trainings have been instructional. They've been on point to like critical areas of our business. But we're tying in like that week's field activity into it because if all we do is cover concepts and regurgitate stuff and go through, or I just blabber for 40 minutes, and there's a place for some of that on getting into products, getting into training, and we'll circle back around to some of that. But stuff that's immediately put into action. One thing I told Alex, just so you all hear me say this directly, is what impressed me about Ryan Schwan so much last week was we did that training. I saw him taking like tons of notes during that training last week. And then, we were on a call, very quickly after that, discussing some, more customized stuff to his business, me, Alec, and Ryan. And then he took immediate action and scheduled a time with Alec and then followed through on it. And like that's, guys, I just can't tell you how big of a deal that is. Like that is there's nothing more effective you could have done in your business week last week, Ryan, than that very sequence of events. And that's the big secret here, you guys. The big secret is what Joe Kaiser just did, right? It's like, you know what? I'm tired of just like thinking about this guy, and every time I see him at a workout, I have the doubt in the back of my mind, and like, why don't I just call him? Or why don't I just text him? And I laugh, but yes, that's hard. That's hard. Sometimes that's hard, right? We get in our own way. I've made a career out of overthinking things. That's like one of my big, liabilities in business is overanalysis by paralysis or whatever, paralysis by overanalysis. And so, but I just want to reinforce the things you guys are doing that obviously is contributing to some great efforts. And these are the seeds that lead to all the things that you join this business for. The magic is to keep doing them, right? Like schedule these appointments, get them on the calendar, but go right back tomorrow or today on who am I calling next? And continuing to like add to that pipeline. And I just have this like idea in my mind. I'm just constantly just like wanting to like pound more and more and more into my sack of, more AUM and more teammates and more appointments and more at bats. I just know the more people I'm in front of and the more conversations I'm engaged in, it's just more seems to come out the other end of that pipeline, right? So if I can just focus on that input on a constant basis, the output's going to eventually be what I want. And I can't ever predict it. I can't ever, I used to try to do that and I just gave up years and years ago. But I used to try to say, okay, I can get this guy and this guy and that guy could be a teammate and this guy could be a client. And I used to kind of attach names to specific outcomes. And now it's just numbers based. It's based like, hey, I know if I make X amount of phone calls, I know if I do X amount of meetings, I'm going to have X amount of income and production and teammates and all these things. And that's where you guys need to get real clear on it. If you don't feel like you're clear on that, get with your trainer, your direct trainer, on helping to formulate that, right? But that's the process here, right? And so many people go astray here, or they plateau at all these different levels because they do the right things for a little bit, and then they take their foot off the gas, and they focus on managing those things that they've created and then they're kind of like back to the drawing board, and like they ramp it back up again, and like they just grow a little bit, plateau, grow a little bit, take a step back, grow 2 steps forward, take a step back. If you guys can just get clear on every week, I'm going to be adding to my pipeline. I'm going to be contacting new people every week. There's going to be a compounding effect that'll take effect, and then you'll be where you want to be.
So one thing that openly that I don't think I know I have that I've struggled with is probably the simplest thing that I've heard out of Tyson's mouth, 300 times in 5 years is that, I mean, like literally you don't, you really don't have to do much. Like you just have to ask for, 15, 20 minutes of time and let the presentations and the stuff that WealthWave One has do the work for you. I think I got focused on, and this isn't a bad thing, right? You want to focus on like your quality prospects, quality meetings, stuff that might lead to some fruition, helping people out, putting some money in your bank and all those things. But that becomes stale after a while, as we all know. So what you need to get good at is just doing the front end stuff, just telling the story, right? Just taking the end result like off the front of your mind. And for instance, that I guess the more at bats you take doing that, the better off the better you're going to get at doing it. I have kind of doubts that I'll do anything with this guy that I was just previously talking about. I'm sure he's got a lot of things. He just seems like a guy that's got a lot together. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I'll find out. But if he doesn't, or if he does, then cool. I still got 15, 20 minutes worth of experience, just simply not worrying about the end result. Right. And so that's a big thing that I'm trying to focus on. There's just not worrying about the end result. Just
And Joe,
keep it simple.
Can you just say real quick what you said to him, this contact you referenced that you work out with? Like, can you just like rattle that off real quick again?
So I just said, hey man, I was wondering if I could get your and Megan's ear for about 15 to 20 minutes just to tell you a little bit about what we do for people. I said, you probably have all your ducks in a row. At least you seem that way. But if not, great. If so, that's great too. At the very least, you'll have a knowledge base about where to go should a want or a need arise. And maybe you guys know a few people that could use what we do, use our services that we do for people.
And was that,
basically,
did you call him or was that a text?
No, I've had the text typed for probably 2 weeks and just never pushed send.
Okay, so you sent that as a text, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so here, let's get into something real quick. Like, why did that text work? So if just for time purposes, I'll just say I don't think you can just sit there and text every prospect.
Right.
It like some sort of script. Like if it like I'm not going to give Ryan Schwann's like this like script you can copy and just like mass distribute to his contact list and just wait for the phone to ring. So if we all assume that's not going to be effective, why was Joe's text effective?
Because there's a relationship there.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. There's been a couple times. So, and this is just thinking outside of I guess not, I hate saying thinking outside the box because it's really not that hard. So this guy's gotten beef with us a couple times, Tyson, right? He's been on that group of people that have, I've dropped stuff off at his house. A couple weeks ago, he needed help moving a gun safe. I got a truck. Sure. Let me go help you. You know what I mean?
You know what you mean for a second, like gotten beef with us. I'm like, was there an issue? Like,
no, like cow, like moo, moo. And so it's like, I guess I just thought to myself, and it's not because I wanted something in return, but he's asked for a hand for a couple things, and I was available, so I helped. This is no different.
You got it.
Hey, do you got 15, 20 minutes? Because and I think once you get that wrapped around your mind, like I'm just asking for your time as an aid to me. Maybe you need something, maybe you don't. But this is what I'm trying to do in terms of growing things. Maybe you can introduce me to a few people, maybe not.
So what this guy would have had to say, now, and this is I'd consider this an extreme case. I would say, Joe, you had a lot of relationship collateral here. In terms of, amount of time you've spent with this guy, the things you've done to help him out. I mean, it would be almost impossible to imagine him like, you know what, Joe, like I think such little of you. I'm not even gonna give you 20 minutes. Like you've done enough for this guy where you're like, hey, I'm getting into like I don't know, like I'm getting into like Satan worship, and I want to share with you like my new belief system. Like, can I get 20 minutes of your time? Maybe, I mean, just in relationship, the guy'd be like, I don't know, Joe. I guess, yeah, sure. Like you probably like, you know what I'm saying? Because you have that, but you don't have that many people in your life that you have that level of collateral with, right? Um, or equity, maybe to use a better word. But I think you'll find that you don't even need that much. Like I mean, this thing's been ripe on the tree for probably several months now. You just decided to finally go up and grab it. But like, how many other pieces of fruit are hanging on the tree that are just almost as ripe that don't? I mean, that script you can use for the next 30 years of your life. Like I don't know if it's for you or not. You probably have a little subtle takeaway. You probably have all your ducks in a row. But if a need ever arises, you know where to go. Like that's beautiful. Like and it's yours and you said it. Like if you could just repeat that more frequently, it will get easier and easier and your results get bigger and bigger and then your confidence grows. And I mean it's just this your business becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of growth.
And I like the way you said it too, because like when you were explaining it to us, I heard you say that, he was hearing about your business and how he might be able to help you, but the way you worded it was very him forward and what you can do to help him out and just assist him instead of him helping you.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know. You just go back to genuinely, I like the dude, he's a good dude. He's a leader in our workout group. He's, we talk about building leaders in F3 all the time, and that's exactly what he's become. Um, and I know that on the back end, he said things about, me personally within our workout group. And it's like, again, whether we do something or not, I don't even care. It's, it's good for me. It's the ability to sit down with one more person who candidly, is not somebody that I would have a year and a half or 2 years ago because I was nervous about it. Well, and then there's just nothing to be nervous about. So keep plugging away. Lead with service, and the results will be what they are.
What a way to spend a life, huh? What a way to spend a career. I love it. Hey guys, I'm excited about where we're at. We got all kinds of momentum. We got all kinds of new people starting at all different phases of the business, from onboarding to fast starting to getting in licensing. We're contacting, we're setting up new appointments. Like, guys, this is the seeds of a really exciting growth era for our team, and I'm really excited about it. And man, it's fun to dream about where we're going to be just 1 year from now, where some of you are going to be. And if I were you guys, and this can apply to each of you on this call, I'd be asking yourself, what kind of role do I want to play in this operation? You guys, when I joined this company, maybe this is a good ending point today. Like, the guy's business that I joined, Phil Kingery, I mean, he had a couple like guys that had been in business with him for a couple of years, but he was only 7-ish years in the business when I joined him. And so we had a couple key guys doing a few things, couple full timers, and then a cropping of people that looked like you all looked like me when I started. Basically, were around but hadn't done much yet, just getting going. And after a few months, I started looking around the room. I'm like, I don't want to just be a teammate here. I want to be a player. And then after a year or two, it's like I don't want to just be a player. I want to be the dominant guy here, and that just you know. And so I just would suggest to you guys this team. I've told people at our home office and other people around the company. I had some conversations at TFA Exchange. You guys, as a team, we manage about $150 million right now, and there's not a doubt in my mind that we're going to be a $1 billion team before we hang it up, in the next 20 years. And there's a compounding effect of like, if it took me 24 years to go to 150 million, I don't think it'll take, 15 years to get to a billion. The compounding exponential growth of that. Now that's not going to be the 8 of us like go pulling down like $80 million each. That's going to be building out some scaling of business and all that. But what kind of role do you want to have in that? Do you have any idea the revenue that kind of operation is going to kick off in a business like ours? Right? I mean, you're talking about massive revenue, massive bonuses, massive exponential results. How big a role you want to play in that, right? Do you want to be part of that team and tell your kids about it one day, like I was part of this team that did this and had a role in that, and or I was on the team, I was on the roster, I got the ring because I was on the roster when they won the championship, or do you want to be one of the players on the field contributing to the win? That's just how I continue to think today. And that's an invitation to each of you to there is just no limits and to what you can do here. And I exist to help you guys do it, as does some of our other leaders on the call here. And man, it's going to be fun hunting it down. So appreciate you all, and we'll be talking to you soon.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Take care, everybody.